I working with Tyson Chartier as my head coach, and he's just completely game changer for me. Just working with Calvin Cater and Rob Vaughn and the England Cartel and all those guys.
Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now.
Connor, what's going on, man? Let's get into it right away. Your debut in the UFC. It's a long time coming, and you get to fight not too far, right? The distance. How far is that from Massachusetts, Atlantic City?
It's like a 5.5-hour ride. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
It's a 5.5-hour ride. So not too far. It's basically, it's a little rival between Boston and New York. So that's kind of cool to fight my first UFC fight and have that going. But it's close enough. So like I have a lot of people coming from Massachusetts down there to come support me, which is really cool for my debut. I'm happy that I'm debuting in a stadium and not in the Apex, which is pretty cool. I fought twice in the Apex already. So yeah, man, it's super excited.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. It is New York versus Boston, man. That's one of
Yeah.
the rivalries. 100+ years.
Yeah, super big rivalry. So, me growing up too with like the Yankees and the Red Sox and all that.
Yeah.
They used to get fist fights out in the field, so it's pretty cool.
You're gonna wear something Boston for the face-offs or something. You got it, right?
I got to do something like that for sure. It's a good idea. Maybe a Boston Red Sox cap or a Bruins cap. I made friends this year with the kid that plays for the Boston Bruins, and he invited me to a couple of the games. Jacob Lacko. So that's been pretty cool. So maybe I'll rock some Bruins gear down there.
Nice. Dennis Buzukja, man. Not too much success in the UFC, but a hell of a fighter. You've probably known him coming up in the East Coast, right?
Yeah, I've heard of him before. Definitely. He's a couple times I think they've offered. Those fights have been popped up for me or seen him. Yeah, he looks like he's a solid fighter, man. He's been cornering Aljo for a long time. So I mean, that's saying something right there, right? They definitely, his knowledge or whatever it is, has got to be pretty high if Aljamain Sterling wants to have him in his corner. So definitely not taking this kid lightly. I mean, it's the UFC. There's a reason why everybody's gotten there, and I mean, the two fights he had were tough fights. I mean, you know what I mean? So like, yeah, he's 0-2 getting to the UFC, but he took two hard fights in the UFC. So, the way I look at this fight is, I mean, this is like his do or die. So that's a dangerous person in general. Somebody, it was like kind of like my Contender Series fight last year. It's like, yeah, if you don't get this, man, you're basically you're done. You're not going to get a shot at the UFC. So, I put everything into that camp to make sure that I won that fight, and I imagine he's doing the same thing right now.
Okay, that mentality that you just mentioned about, if you lose this, you're done. Like really, you're not done, but that mentality of having that mindset heading into a fight, what did it do to you?
Some people, for other people, they can crumble because it's like a lot of stress, and depending on people deal with that. Or some people can kind of rise up and just like really, but I really feel like that feeling is something you take your camp seriously, not necessarily doesn't just come out on fight night like, oh man, this is it, I'm going to show up on fight night. It's something that like, every single day in camp that you're doing everything you possibly can to make sure you're ready for that fight night. And I just got to imagine that's what I'm getting myself into. I like to imagine every single time I get into a fight that I'm fighting against the best in the world, and that's what I'm ready. That's what I'm getting ready for. I'm not taking this kid lightly. I'm going to do everything I possibly can, like I'm fighting a UFC champ, because those fights are going to come soon enough, and I want to. Every single time I get in there to fight somebody, I'm repping for that.
And also, it seems like you're entering the UFC at a good age, at a good time in your career, and you haven't had that many fights. It seems like some of these guys, they take too much damage coming up in the regional scene, and you see the effects of that because the level of competition, it rises up so fast as well. Do you see that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I see so many guys just like hopping in fights left and right, and a lot of guys damaging their record before they should have even gotten to fight guys that good on the local record, which makes it harder for them to get into UFC. There's so many good guys on the regional scene that like the UFCs are not interested because they got like 4 or 5 lost at one point in their career, and they fix their stuff and they're getting better and they're winning. But by the time they get to the UFC and they have a lot of losses, they got a lot of damage. So it's like, yeah, definitely something you see. And I think that I'm very lucky that I did the military thing because I trained. Yes, I didn't get the fight for those 6 years, but I kind of preserved my body in a lot of ways and still was able to train and be really physical and strong and get older and more mature. So, when I decided to go professional, it was kind of like, just full on in, just get myself there to the UFC, and that's been my goal. So I agree with you. I feel like I haven't been through the wars that a lot of other guys have been through, and that's going to preserve me. And I'm kind of coming into my prime right now. I'm 31 years old. Look at all these guys who are champ, right, that you've been champ between 32, 33, 34. Like that's usually when these guys get up there. So yeah, I'm pretty lucky for that for sure.
Last year, man, 2023, you went 2-0. You're coming off your only loss entering
Yep.
that year. Do you feel like last year was that turning point year for you? You mentioned you're entering your prime. Did you feel that in these fights?
Yeah, I totally felt that, but I think mostly it was because of not because I was coming into my prime, but it's because of my team and my management. I working with Tyson Chartier as my head coach, and he's just completely game changer for me. Just working with Calvin Cater and Rob Fa and the New England Cartel and all those guys. Um, the room right now is getting really good in New England. We opened up the doors. We have all these new guys that are coming in and training, and the team practices have just been very, very intense. And as you can see, what that's going to do for the New England Cartel. So I think that's the reason why I really made a big changing point. But I needed to go through that loss to realize that I needed to change some things in my fighting training and style and everything. So and I made the right decision to do what I did, and I'm super happy it paid off.
Yeah, the New England Cartel, man. It seems like, you don't really think of like super camps on the East Coast, on the Northeast, but it
Yep.
seems like Tyson is creating one, slowly but surely. Do you feel that?
I 100% feel that. Obviously, it's not. I wouldn't say it's a super gym yet because we only have like Rob and Calvin who are like top 10 guys that are training in the gym. But we have a ton of studs that are coming up, like kids underneath me and a couple of guys around me. Kid Carlos Azoya, he just fought. He's really really good black belt and wrestler. He's like a 125 or 135er, and he just fought in Fury FC, and he was just fighting the top level guys there, kind of with like bad management, kind of like they're just kind of feeding him to all these really good guys. But he's like I said, like we're talking about these guys in these local scene that are coming up that have a ton of fights and really good. They just never really got that. Didn't get good management really, to get themselves to the UFC. So he's coming up. Nick Fiore, he fought in the UFC. We have Chris Mantino, Tom Pags. There's like a bunch of really good guys coming up in England Cartel, and it's been awesome, man. The practices are been really hard.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
They're gonna get you ready, man. Tyson
Yeah.
is, he doesn't pull no punches, right?
No, not at all. I mean, look at all the guys, like the way they fight. Like you can say what you want. We don't have any titles or anything in our gym, but we never get finished easy. Look at like even if Calvin like with the Max Holloway fight, he didn't go away. He stayed there the whole time. Rob, anytime he's ever fought these really really high level guys, he's staying in there the entire fight. We're not getting finished easy. That's definitely not in our DNA for the New England Cartel for sure. We bring it to you to the end, and that's something that I'm prideful about, and it's gonna show in my fighting career.
And since the Contender Series, coming out of that fight, you fought 15 minutes, hard rounds. How were you physically?
Physically, I was actually pretty good. I mean, I got a couple staples in my head from an elbow. My nose, I think I cut that no, that was my last fight before that. I think just all I got was some staples in my head. My shoulder, I had a shoulder issue kind of going into it. Before that, I was kind of like, dealing with. I had to get that figured out and fixed. So I got that fixed up. And then other than that, man, I'm feeling great. Going into this fight camp. I had a long fight camp for sure. I'm ready for fight night. I'm really like, man, dude, I just can't wait for it to get here at this point. Especially, you get to like 3 weeks out, like the diet, the food starts slowing down for you, and you just like all eyes are on March 30th right now.
Do the days become longer than you previously feel the days?
Yeah, I just think it's just the anticipation now. You know what I mean? It's like when you're far out, you're kind of like I get to eat a lot more food, so training's not as bad. You know what I mean? And as you get closer, your intensity gets harder and your food gets lessened. You know what I mean? And it's just the way it's the name of the game. And it's just, it's just a grind. But I love it. It's the kind of grind you want. If I can't fight camp was easy, I would not feel ready for my fight. I like to like almost like break myself mentally in fight camp. So when I get that last week when I'm just like recovering and just chilling out, you feel like amazing. Then never mind when after you weigh in, you get those carbs and it just feels like jet fuel and you're just ready to run through a wall. And I love that whole process to get me ready for a fight. Like some people are like, oh, I hate cutting weight and all that bullshit. I actually like it. Something about it to me is like preps you for war. It's like you're hungry. You know what I mean? Like that's like survival. Yeah. So I really like that mentality of just like making weight, and I feel like that's where you really win the fight the first time, and then you go back in and you just actually win the fight. So for me, it's a whole journey that I really enjoy.
Yeah, you're hungry, starving,
Literally hungry.
starving.
I tell you, people act different when you're hungry. I feel like I'm a pretty easygoing, nice guy when I'm not hungry. But you start taking my food away, I start being I need that. I need that for fighting.
It's a different thing, man.
Yeah.
I know you have a great team and you have all these different bodies to work with, but when you break off and start to prepare for the opponent, who has been helping you kind of with the drilling and kind of like specific training?
So there's this kid called named Mike Bulger. He's a professional boxer from Boston. He's also does MMA as well. He has like I think he's 3-0 as an MMA fighter, but his main thing was boxing growing up. He's really good hands, really good like wrestler as well. So he's been giving me most of my work just because stylistically he's similar to the kid that I'm fighting. Buzukja seems like he's got some kicks as well, but my Bulgers really has the kicks and the punching as well. So I've been using him a lot to get for my sparring rounds. And then for team practices, Nick Fiore, he's a really good. He fought in the UFC. He had fought Chase Hooper, I believe, and he fought some other Polish guy that was really good. He had a tough go going into the UFC, but he's young. He was like 23 or 24 coming into it, and so he's been helping me out a lot for my MMA, my jiu-jitsu, Tom Pags. So yeah, I'm definitely getting a lot of good bodies for different disciplines. You know what I mean? We kind of go to the experts for whatever field they're in to get that kind of work. You know what I mean? I go with like the best jiu-jitsu guy I can possibly go with. I go with the best boxer striker I can possibly go with. So right now Calvin's getting ready for his fight against Aljo. So we're not really putting us two together because we're both kind of getting ready for fights. We don't need us both to be going hard. Sometimes when you're training, you need somebody to be the hammer and somebody to be the nail. So they don't want two of me and Calvin both going at each other right now, which I understand. So after this fight, if they still need me, this is last week, I'll hopefully take no damage and I'll get in there and try to help them out.
It's crazy how that works out, right? Like you're fighting Dennis Buzukja, who used to corner Aljamain Sterling and was his teammate for a long time, and then your teammate is fighting Aljamain Sterling now. It's just in a couple of weeks, right? In a matter of weeks.
In 2 week different now. It's pretty interesting. So I saw Aljo when I was out in Vegas. I did a round with Aljo and Marab when I was out there. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I got no beef with those guys at all. Yeah, obviously, the rivalry is going to be real because it's New York and Boston for sure. We're bringing that, but no beef with those guys. But yeah, it's pretty cool that we're both fighting, kind of at our levels, but the same team.
Yeah, man, it's fun. What are your expectations in this fight out of yourself?
I feel like every single time I get in there, I don't like getting into a training for a fight if I feel like I was the same person I was in my last fight. So I think you're just going to see a more polished version of what you guys saw in Contender Series. Really, in Contender Series, I wanted to show everybody that I could wrestle too, and I wasn't just like a striker or a brawler. Just going to be like it just had a couple of jiu-jitsu like submissions or whatever it was. I really brought that kid into deep water, and I'm ready to do that again, man. I'm in the best shape of my life this fight. Ever since I got that Contender Series contract, I knew I was getting into a UFC fight. It wasn't like, oh, maybe I'm going to be in the UFC. I knew I was going to be in the UFC. So that changed my whole mentality of everything. And I've been prepping ever since October 10th, man. So you're going to see a really, really good. Even Tyson says to me, he's like, man, you look so much better from when you first. I've only been training at the cartel for a little over a year. He's like, you're like a totally different fighter from when you first came in there. So I'm just ready to show the world that.
This is an interesting matchup because you're like entering the door, like the front door of the UFC, and he's possibly going out the back door of the UFC, and you guys have to fight each other in that spectrum, right? You never know what to expect from your opponent in that position, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a wounded animal. You know what I mean? Just like you never know what you're gonna get. That's the way I look at it. But I do feel like when it comes to fighting, sometimes the will to win and create more in my life is stronger than just the will to survive. I feel like sometimes if you're just trying to survive, you're not gonna go. You're like it kind of brings too much stress and tension over your fighting style and camp and everything. I feel like I'm just trying to go there and be loose and relax and just kind of have a coming out party for the world to see.
There you go. March 30th, UFC Atlantic City. This is a great place to debut. Like you said, New York versus Boston. Let's do it, man. Connor, thank you so much for the time. And yeah, the gym, it always looks fresh, man.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. We've been working on, been upgrading, and upgrading,
Yeah.
like just like my MMA.
And it's clean too. Like I noticed it's always
Yeah,
clean.
it's pretty. Well, we've been having a lot of cameras here lately. We had
Okay.
the UFC
Oh yeah.
cameras are down here recently, and then we had the Air Force came down and they filmed me. So Black Rifle Coffee was down here. So we've been doing a lot of publicity stuff out here. So I got to keep it a little bit cleaner.
Yeah. Well, how was that? How was having the Air Force out there filming and
it, it,
having Black Rifle involved as well?
Black Rifle Coffee was awesome, and that's kind of like a dream come true for me. You know what I mean? That's a really cool, guys to have behind me. It's just going to bring so much support from my military members and the special operations background. So like that's been really, really cool. And they hooked me up with obviously a bunch of gear, and I got a fridge full of coffees out there. So that's been awesome. JT and Matt Best are the guys who own it. They're making a song for me for my walkout. So JT is Jared Taylor. And that's gonna be really cool to have like a custom song for my walkout that he made. I'm really excited for that. And then the Air Force was quite an experience, man. They had like usually UFC comes in, they have like three guys, and it's pretty easy. They know what they're doing. Like, not to say the Air Force didn't know what they're doing, but we had like 50, like 20, I think 20 or 15 people with like cameras following me around for the day for a couple of days, and I was just like, are going into my gym and like they had like a food stand set up and like all this thing. I was like shutting down the gym. I was like, oh man, I've never seen anything like that. So that was pretty crazy to experience. It's kind of like like I kind of imagined, what it was like could be in the UFC, but it felt like to me it felt like bigger than I expected. You know what I mean? I've seen Rob and Calvin have the cameras around a lot. You know what I mean? So, but it's like having it for me was just kind of it's a totally different experience, but it's been really cool for sure. It kind of gets me ready for when I get down there. It's not going to be the bright lights. It's already something I've seen, and I know. It's like you kind of got to live being a champion before you are one. You know what I mean? You gotta live that life first. So I feel like I'm doing that.
Yeah, man. Well deserved, man. There's a reason why
Thank
those
you.
cameras are there following you around.
Thank you.
Um,